Thanks very much, guys. So my background is that I'm currently working as a consultant for a couple of education and technology companies, but I'm also working to launch an incubator advisory tech company that's going to be based in London and South Africa, focused on education and technology. And my reasons for leaving the European Union are that I think if we leave the EU, this becomes the most open country, the most international country, and the most pro-science and technology country. I think the big issues for most businesses, particularly for the tech industry, are immigration and their regulations. So I think on immigration, it's essential that we leave because we need to get a hold of the most skilled people from all over the world, not just inside of Europe. So in my particular industry, the big two talents that we need are data scientists and programmers. Now, after 2030, over 90% of the STEM graduates in the world are going to be educated outside of Europe. And if we maintain our current immigration policy, which is forced on us by the EU, which means that we have to take anyone who wants to come from within Europe, but we are therefore forced to turn away skilled people from outside, we are going to miss out on that overwhelming STEM talent from outside of the European Union. So what I think we should do is turn away from the EU's immigration policy, which is based on nationality, not on skills, and we should leave the European Union and move towards a policy that's based on skills, not nationality, where the best science, the best tech talent from Africa, Asia and the Americas has the same chance to come here as somebody from within the European Union. If we're going to attract those people to our tech industry, we need regulations that promote innovation rather than stifle. And I think that what you see at the moment is what one Harvard professor described as the EU fighting a guerrilla war against the future. Now I see them as kind of like King Canute trying to hold back progress in the tech industry rather than encouraging it. And I think Britain's always been a country that embraces the future rather than fighting against it. So when you look at what the EU is doing on net neutrality, where they're passing regulations that The Economist has said are going to hurt the continent startups, when you look at what they're doing on data protection, where Ben Hunt, the CEO of Search Party, they said they're doing things which will stop businesses like his doing what they do. And what you see what they're doing on intellectual property, where Julia Reader MEPs have to file a kind of rearguard action to protect the hyperlink from being taken into intellectual property. You create a regulatory environment where what you see is that Uber and Google are lining up to say, we're big companies, we don't like it, but we could deal with it. But what will happen is that tech startups will leave the European Union and they will go to America and they will go to Asia. Because the best of both worlds becomes a situation where you have access to, but you are not in the single market because single market regulations are so damaging for your business. And unlike the Remain campaign, I can actually point to concrete examples of businesses leaving the European Union because of regulations. Just last week, Ghost, the open blogging platform, one of the most exciting blogging platforms in the world, left the UK for Singapore because they said we need to work in a market that is not in the European Union because of the European Union's ATMOS regulations. And they went to Singapore, which has got an incredible business environment, and it gives them the opportunity to have access to, but not be in the single market, which I think is the best of both worlds for tech businesses. But I think as well as regulations, as well as immigration, tech businesses obviously are very concerned about free trade and trade agreements. I think my belief in voting leave is really based on two things. The first one is that we will get a free trade agreement with Europe. I think if you look at tech, it's foolish to just wouldn't. Britain has 17 of the 40 tech companies worth $1 billion, and that reflects a wider economic strength as the world's fifth biggest economy. That means it's absolutely certain that as the biggest importer of German BMWs or the biggest importer of French champagne, business interests in those countries will make sure there is a free trade agreement between Britain and the EU. But I also think we'll be much better off signing free trade agreements with the parts of the world economy that are actually growing, rather than just being concentrated on the EU. As a member of the European Union, stood here today, we do not have a trade agreement with Canada, Australia, America, India or China, let alone economies of the future like Indonesia or Ethiopia. I'm absolutely certain that if Britain leaves the European Union, we will lead the world in signing new free trade agreements. And the Canadian Conservatives, potentially their future Prime Minister Jason Kenney, has already said Britain will probably get a free trade agreement quicker by leaving the European Union than by going through the one the EU is negotiating with Canada. Because as we saw with TTIP, the European Union is so culturally and economically different to us that they hold back trade agreements, whereas we as a more nimble and more pro-business country will be able to negotiate our own. So I genuinely believe that when you look at the world economy, and you look especially 30 or 40 years ahead, we are much, much better off being outside of the European Union and negotiating our own trade agreements with the economies of the future in Africa, Asia and the Americas than we are in remaining in. And finally, it's not strictly a business issue or only a business issue, but I do think that the democratic deficit is incredibly important in the European Union. One of the things we rely upon in business is a stable regulatory environment and a stable policy environment. And you only get a stable environment when everyone in the country believes they have a say or that the system is working. And I think particularly on the issue of immigration, we have an immigration system at the moment which isn't dictated by us, it's dictated by the European Union, and the public has lost confidence in it. And what you see is the government then does all that it can and scrambles around for what I think is a very flawed immigration policy of blocking international students and blocking qualified people from outside the EU. If we leave the EU, British people will vote on our immigration policy. There'll be a lot more confidence in the system, and therefore I believe governments will be able to sell the electorate a very pro-business immigration policy, which then everybody has confidence in, and business can have confidence in. You won't see immediate changes like we've seen recently to business. So I think in summary, this for me is really about the next 30 or 40 years for this country. I think much safer for jobs that we trade freely all around the world rather than be limited to the European Union. I think much safer for business on immigration, that we don't turn our back on those STEM graduates from Africa, Asia and the Americas, we embrace them. I think much, much better for business that we leave the European Union single market in terms of tech regulation. We merely have access to it because those tech regulations are a guerrilla war against the future, and we need to embrace the tech industry as the future of this country. And I also believe that the EU's democratic deficit creates an instability in European politics, and I think it creates an instability in British politics. And therefore leaving gets us a better trading future, an immigration policy that gives us the talent we need in our tech industry, it gives us regulations that encourage innovation in our tech industry, and it gives us a political stability that everyone buys into, that means in 40 years time this will be an even better place to do business than it is now, whereas I believe it will be a weaker place to do business if we remain in the European Union. And that's why remaining is the greatest risk for jobs, it's the greatest risk to business, it's the greatest risk to the wealth of individuals and to this country, and the much safer choice for business and the brighter future for Britain's tech industry is to vote to leave the European Union. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Jamie has very kindly agreed to take questions, so would you like to question?
Thank you very much. What you're saying is that the regulations that we currently are enforced on the EU market is what's restricting businesses and restricting growth. That's what you're categorically saying. And that by exiting the UK or the market, we will have a much clearer say in our trading activity. What's stopping us now, even with the EU, from trading, by remaining in the market, trading with the Americas, India, Indonesia? What's stopping us now from actually doing that?
The first answer to your question is nothing's completely stopping us, right? Obviously we trade really successfully with America, we trade successfully with China. The second thing I would say is leaving the EU will not solve all of our problems. There are problems of productivity in this country, there's education problems in this country that we need to solve ourselves, and that leaving the EU is not going to solve. But I believe that the European Union on immigration regulation holds back businesses in this country. Not completely, not totally, obviously we still do great stuff. I think that, if I talk about my industry in tech, the lack of talent is you talk to any tech entrepreneur, right? The lack of talent is the biggest problem. I work a lot in South Africa. Amazon have just opened an office in Cape Town because there's so many people who can code in Cape Town at a really cheap cost. Right? Now, I'm not sure that's the end of the market Britain really wants to pick up, but our businesses here need coders, and they need coders hopefully at a fairly low cost. You get that by getting more immigration from countries like Singapore, from China, which have got really high quality STEM education systems. You don't get that by only restricting immigration largely to Europe and saying, you left school at 15 in Germany, you're in, you've got a PhD in computer science from Singapore, actually will make it difficult, we might not be so keen. I think that's one big thing. On regulation, regulations, I think VATMOS is a really, really good example. So VATMOS is the accounting regulation for the EU, puts a really high accounting burden on small businesses. It goes through a super liberal business thing. Go said, look, yeah, we can still do business in this regulation, it's still possible. It's just more expensive and it's more difficult. If we move to Singapore, we get to pull out of EU VAT, really helpful to us. So I think we're obviously limited in lowering VAT by the EU, and we get to pull out of VATMOS, so we can do business cheaper and we can do it more easily. We're so free. Singapore has access to the single market, but they're not in the single market. That's our sweet spot. We're going to move there. So I think to summarise, you are correct. This doesn't solve all of our problems, and we can already trade with the EU. If we stay in the EU, Britain's a great country. Britain's got brilliant businesses and entrepreneurs. We'll be okay. What I believe is we could be phenomenal if we leave, because it will lighten that regulatory burden. But I do believe that culturally and on business, we are a more free market, low regulation economy than the rest of Europe. And I think our perfect situation has always been in that spot. Here's America, here's Europe, we service both. In that time zone, here's Asia, here's America, we can service both. That's our competitive advantage. And I believe if we get too dragged into the European Union, and it is only going one way, which is more integration, we will lose that competitive advantage.
Hi, it's very interesting. However, you're arguing from what's clearly a very experienced technology background. I don't think all of your points apply to all industries. Here's the issue for you, I think. There are so many imponderables, unknowables about leaving the EU, but particularly we have a guaranteed market. Not necessarily a pro-European, but we do have a guaranteed market which provides 50% of British exports. Now, it's going to take at least 10 years to replace those exports in manufacturing, agriculture, tourism, hospitality. It's not going to happen overnight. We're in the middle of a recession, and wherever the government tells you we're not going to come out of this recession for at least 25 years. It's going to take us that to pay off the money. We're not in a position to leave.
I think, firstly, you're definitely right. What is the biggest thing for us on the leave side to prove? What's the hardest thing in our case to prove? That is that it is safe for the economy, in fact safer for the economy, which I believe it is, to vote to leave. Let me go into why I believe it is. You said it's going to take 8 to 10 years to sort out a deal with the EU. Hopefully, even the EU will be quicker than that. Stuart Rose, who's the chairman of Strong Marine, so he's surely not on my side, right? Stuart Rose said, ex-CEO of M&S, he said, nothing will change for 5 years, right? Now, I agree with him. I think he's right. I think what will happen is that we will vote, hopefully, we'll vote to leave on June the 24th. Britain and Europe will then say, okay, obviously it's in everybody's interests to make this an orderly exit, where we plan it out properly, and Britain leaves over a period. I think 5 years sounds about right to me. So don't worry, the first day after we leave, it won't be, well, we're out the single market, and etc. It's going to be a 5-year process. Secondly, I genuinely believe that, unfortunately, this is an issue where there are risks on both sides, there are unknowns on both sides. You're absolutely right. I cannot tell you what Britain's GDP will be in 2019. Really. I can't tell you that. George Osborne claims he can. He can't either. Right? And you probably know about his forecast. Exactly, right? Now, all I can tell you is my opinion on what I think the relative risks are. Okay? I think that Europe's leaders, people like Angela Merkel, at their heart are pragmatists. At the moment she's campaigning, she wants Britain to stay. Why? Of course she does. I mean, we are their pro-business, free market partner in so many EU regulations. Once we leave, Angela Merkel wants to do what's best for Germany and best for business, and I promise you that is Britain having access to the single market and free trade with Europe. Now, the one thing I think you're absolutely right about is that the status quo is not on the ballot paper. Nobody can vote in this election to freeze 2016. There are two choices. We go further into Europe, which is the undisputed goal of the European Union. If you read the 5 Presidents report, we'll have a a single seat on the IMF, they get a single seat on so many global trading organisations. We go further in, and I think the logic pushes us towards potentially having to join the euro, or at least be much more integrated. Or we leave. And I think whenever we leave, there is going to be the element of uncertainty. You're absolutely correct. But I think there is also a huge uncertainty about what does that greater integration in Europe mean for British business. Personally, my view, TTIP shows you what it means for British business. Ghost shows you what it means for British business. France have wrecked the TTIP negotiations. I know TTIP's slightly flawed. It's not the free trade agreement I'd have negotiated. But trust me, we face a future trying to negotiate free trade agreements with countries when they get wrecked by French politicians or French farmers or whatever it is. It's not perfect if we go outside. Of course there'll be British political interests. I just think it's much better we do it on our own. Secondly, we face a future where the European bureaucracy grows ever bigger, it's more integrated, it's more regulated. Now, I appreciate I talk mainly from a tech perspective, but VATMOS is a regulation on accounting that applies to any small business. Ghost have very simply said, we're out, we're going to leave. And I think that, and they're doing it. And I think that the reality is that a lot of the businesses which in 30 or 40 years' time will be big employers in this country will either leave or they won't even set up here in the first place because of EU regulation. So I think you are absolutely correct. There is the potential for short-term uncertainty either way. I think my answer to that is that in the short term, not much will change for 5 years. And I put my trust in German business and in Angela Merkel to sort out an orderly exit. I think she's a pragmatist, I think she's a very smart woman, and I think the CEO of BMW will be on the phone the minute we leave saying, there's no way you let Britain just walk out of this thing. Yeah, and I think that the other thing I really put my trust in, ultimately, is that this country is better off having a loose free trading agreement with Europe and playing this global role where we are America and Europe, Asia and America, because of our time zone, because of our geography. And I really do believe when I travel around the world, you get a really great reception for being British and for doing business as a British person, because you're kind of seen as a global country and you're not really seen as a European country. And I think we begin to dilute that if we get too far into the EU. And I think the perfect point between the best of both worlds is this access to, but not in the single market, and it is this in Europe, trading with Europe, but not in the political union, and that's the bit we don't like. And I think that overall, therefore, hard to balance the risks as it is, I believe we're safer for business, safer for jobs if we vote to leave.
Any other questions?
If we do leave, and I certainly hope we do you think other countries, other EU countries might want to leave as well? And is that the fear that's in the eyes of the Chancellor, the German Chancellor?
Yes. So you've probably seen the polls this week. Sweden and Holland have both held referenda. Now, I think that is the fear. I think the fear you see, honestly, is, and I seconded to a government department as a special advisor when my previous career as a management consultant. I've been in the Westminster establishment. It's not just the European establishment, it's the whole of the Westminster establishment. As someone tweeted the other day, after Cameron's World War III speech, I smell fear on the streets of SW1. They are seeing their whole system and their hold on power in this country slipping away from a coalition of ordinary people who are fed up with it, and honestly of entrepreneurs and small businesses who are fed up with the European Union. And they are seeing, the political class are seeing their hold on power slip away because of that. Now, what's the future of the EU if Britain votes to leave? I honestly think it's quite a logical one, which is as follows. It probably makes sense for a number of Central European, traditionally centralised kind of dirigiste economies to have the European Union in a very, very centralised way. And for them, hey, it's not how I run my country, but the 5 presidents report, single seat on the IMF, massive bureaucracy, all the power in the hands of an elected commission. It's how they do things. It's like my nightmare vision, but it's how they like to do things. It might even work for them. And I think once you've adopted the euro, it's logical. It's not logical for us. It's not logical for Sweden. It's not logical for Holland. And I think it becomes not logical for Denmark. It's already not logical for Norway. And I think what you'll probably see is an orderly, I think a bit orderly, I think the Northern European countries will pull out. gradually, in different ways, they will have a trading relationship, but not a political relationship, which is the best of both worlds. Access to, but not in the single market. And then what you will see is that the others will get on with the job of centralising it. And I actually think that's better for Europe. I think it actually would be better if instead of going along to European summits and carping on the sidelines, Britain said, fair enough guys, you're going in one direction, it's not quite right for us, let's continue trading and cooperating like we always have done, and then let you guys get on with the job of centralising and building a big, bureaucratic, politicians know best system. It sounds terrible to me, they can have it if they want it, and I think Britain, Holland, Sweden, etc. will then come outside with a looser relationship where we trade, but we are not part of the political union, and that is the absolute best deal for British business. It gives us access to, as the gentleman said, we're one of the world's biggest markets, but it allows us to be that bit more nimble, that bit more free, to trade with what, in my opinion, are the important markets in 40 years' time, which is Africa, Asia, and the Americas.
Any other questions?
If Britain votes to leave the justice in the United States, can you see the collapse of the EU and the collapse of the euro? And what implications do you think that will have on economically for us?
I think the single currency is in real trouble, to be honest with you. I think the gentleman is absolutely right. The single currency is in real trouble. Now, ultimately, it's not Britain's job to sacrifice our national interest at the expense of propping up the single currency. The single currency will survive or not survive based on the decisions made by the European Central Bank and made by the leaders of Eurozone countries. We are already not in those discussions. When they discuss the euro, George Osborne walks out the room or David Cameron walks out the room. We already can't help them. If they took our advice, they wouldn't have started it in the first place. And there are a number of people speaking on this sheet, there are a number of people on the Vote Leave side who told them 20 years ago, this is a bad idea, it will not work. And I think the really sad thing is what you see far too much in the EU, because it's not democratic, is you see someone like Mario Draghi, ex-Goldman Sachs banker, uber elite of the elite, has a sort of, let's try a single currency, let's see if it works out. It's great for him. Goldman make a bunch of money sticking Greece into the economy, into the single currency. And the people who lose out are actually people broadly of my generation who are the 50% of Greeks, young Greeks who are unemployed, the 40% of young Italians and young Spaniards who are unemployed. In those countries with very rigid labour markets, that's a lost generation if you're unemployed at that age. And I think it's tragic that the mistakes of a political elite are hurting a 60-year-old, 50-year-old political elite are now costing young people in those countries. We made a brilliant decision when we didn't join the euro. So I would say to everyone who's listening to this is, whenever you hear someone on TV, a business person or a politician talking about this, it's what else you do, right? If you're looking at an economic forecast or a fund manager, you say, what's his record? Has this guy grown his money for his clients? Has this guy made good decisions or has he made bad decisions? If someone backed the euro, they got bad judgment and they were wrong then and they are wrong now. If someone advocated not joining the euro, they had good judgment and they were right then and they were right now. And all the people who backed not joining the euro, who showed that foresight against all of the elite, are on our side of this referendum. And they are saying, we've got to leave the European Union. And every single time we opt out of something in Europe, the euro, the ERM, the Schengen zone, we all turn around and say, thank God we opted out of that. It would have been a disaster. It is exactly the same now. And I promise you, I'm hopefully, my working career is still 30, 40 years ahead of me. I honestly think if we vote to leave on June the 24th, we'll be sitting here in 2050 with this thriving tech industry, an amazing services industry, a high value add manufacturing industry. I think Europe will be in trouble. I think the euro probably will have collapsed. Germany will be fine because it's a great economy, right? But other countries will be in trouble. And everyone will look around and say, wow, Britain is this phenomenal global economy. Can you imagine if we'd stayed in the EU, it would have held us back so much? And I honestly think that that's what's going to happen. So for me, it's two scenarios. One where we stay in, we'll be okay. We're like Germany, we're a great country, we're a great economy, we'll do okay. And the other one, where we lead the world in industries like technology, like science, in being this open international, global free trading country, and we turn around and say, wow, what a great decision that was.
I'm a European and I'm basically for the overall idea of Europe. But I'm actually from Germany, and I can tell you that I'm going to become a British citizen now because I'm so fed up with what is happening in Europe. I mean, that Eurozone, that I can't even imagine going back. I have more entrepreneurs and business leaders asking me, what is it like in the UK? We want to move to the UK. We want to become British now. Literally, there's a brain drain going on in Germany. A lot of young entrepreneurs leaving because they just can't see how they're going to, survive there as entrepreneurs due to all the regulations and bureaucracy that happens from the EU, thing. My question is, if I'm a European, I'm still having a European passport. How do you think that will end up being worked out for people like us?
Thank you. There's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. On your direct questions, I'm actually doing a debate on migration next week with Vince Cable, who's been the business secretary and who's pro-Remain. I'm doing that debate because I've consistently argued in business debates that it's much better for immigration and talented people into this country if we leave the EU. And it will be, and it's also better for people who stay. So it's been made very clear by Michael Gove, by Boris Johnson, by the senior politicians if Vote Leave, you will be absolutely fine. So anyone here at the moment will be absolutely fine if you're a European passport holder. Secondly, and that's international law. That's also not just what Michael Gove and Boris Johnson say. If you have a right to work somewhere under one treaty, if the treaty superseded international law, it can't be undone. So even if your worst fear became Prime Minister, you'll be fine, don't worry. On the German issue, because I think it's a very interesting issue, so I used to work at a company called Boston Consulting Group, who their biggest office is in Munich, and I work with an awful lot of German people on different projects. It won't be surprised that I work with a lot of engineers, a lot of physicists, incredibly well-educated Germans. Their big concern about the future of their country, and the reason I work with a lot of them in the London office at BCG, was, can I build a career in business in this country? And to think that about Germany is incredible, right? Because it's a country of these people are so smart, so talented, science educated, high value adders, and they all wanted to build careers either as entrepreneurs, as corporate managers, or in more technical fields, maybe go back into engineering or whatever. And for all different reasons, they were very, very worried. I do believe that you will see a certain entrepreneur's brain. I think Britain will always get a positive brain drain because of our universities. So we benefit from a lot of Germans who come to Cambridge, Oxford, Imperial, UCL, LSE. We've got 5 of the world's top 20 universities. There'll be an entrepreneur's drain. In tech, there are 40 companies in Europe, 10 companies worth $1 billion. Right? 17 of them are in Britain. And Europe in this definition includes Israel and Russia, who I think I'm right in saying have more than Germany. Now, why does Israel have more tech companies worth $1 billion than Germany when it's got, a tenth or less of the population? Right? It's because, despite all its advantages that Germany has, incredibly talented workforce, great work ethic, strong business community, the economy's become over-regulated, and its involvement in the euro and in the EU has suppressed entrepreneurship. And I suspect what you see is, if you actually looked at who are the entrepreneurs in Britain, who are the entrepreneurs in America, especially America, you'll see an awful lot of German nationals on those lists. And it's because they're brilliant entrepreneurial people who've gone to more free market, pro-business countries to do it. Now, the question to everyone else in this audience is, who do you want Britain to be? Because I fear that Britain will turn into what you're describing. Still a good country, still a strong business country, but one where it says, we had so much potential, we could have been a contender, we could have been a great tech economy, or are we going to be a country like, frankly, Singapore, America, Australia, Canada, where I believe are looking straight into the future. South Korea is a great example. Looking straight into the future and saying the future of this country is science and technology. And one of the biggest things, I think, one of my favourite business people is Peter Thiel. This is before he backed Donald Trump for the presidency. And Peter Thiel always says that as any organisation, you've got to plan for the future, and he always talks about having certain optimism. Be optimistic about what you can achieve and be certain about what you can achieve. Let's be clear about Britain. This is an amazing country with a brilliant platform for the next 50 years. I'm certain about what we can achieve and I'm optimistic about it. We will lead the world in science and technology, and we will do it because of the quality of our universities, the quality of our entrepreneurs, the quality of our business environment, and our openness and internationalism to the entire world.
which we need people, business owners to sign up to. So if you're a business owner, if you support Don't Leave, we would be very delighted if you would sign up to Visit Britain. I've got iPads here, if you could do that.
We have. No, what I was going to say is I just got distracted by this, but I was saying everybody today should read a reprint of the novel 1984 by George Orwell. And I think people would get a bit of a thinking, they would get another idea. Because the amount of manipulation through the media that is going on to tell people what a great utopia this will be is just all absolutely wrong. And we can literally take lessons from the past or from past thinkers, and maybe that should be literally on the agenda.
If you just think about Europe's history, Europe has always been at its best when it trusted ordinary people and their judgment and distrusted elites. As I say, I seconded into government from Boston Consulting Group for a few months. Trust me, do not trust politicians. The worst thing that can happen, I work with the best politician in Britain, in my opinion, Michael Gove, and even I would say, don't give Michael Gove too much power, let alone the rest of the political class, which is far less talented and far less principled than Michael Gove. Politicians having too much power is the biggest danger to anything, and the whole European project is built on putting power in the hands of politicians and taking it away from ordinary people. The thing about business is, you can't take power away from ordinary people. They're your customers. And if they don't buy your product, it doesn't matter what you do, you're finished. Politicians do not have that problem with the European Union because the Commission and the Court aren't accountable to anybody and they aren't voted for by anybody. And I honestly think for Britain's, for the whole world's future, for Europe's future, the most important thing is that as much as possible, we take power away from politicians and we put it in the hands of ordinary people, whether that's an entrepreneur running a business or a man in the street casting his vote. And if we leave the EU, that gives power to ordinary people, not elites, which, as I agree with you, is a danger.
I think many people would agree with your point of view. The only issue I would have with many of the points you raise is that the foundation for your arguments isn't a proven one or even a solid one. For example, the point you just made about, Europe has always been at its best when the working people have, which is I assume what you meant, the working ordinary people have dominated policy across the continent. Well, that's true, but that's not happening now. What we're witnessing worldwide now is a move towards a greater concentration of wealth and therefore decision making in a smaller number of people's hands. What the world is witnessing is, if you like, a concentration of wealth in fewer and fewer of people's hands. So the opportunity for what we all agree with, enterprise, is being slowly but surely crushed.
We can have a really interesting discussion another time about what's gone wrong with capitalism and why at the moment we have, in this country as well as in Europe, we have what I describe as crony capitalism. We have too many people sitting on too many boards or executives of FTSE 100 companies who don't have a stake in the company or enough of a stake in the company and who haven't put anything at risk, right? And it's one of the biggest problems. My question to you would be, okay, so which of these two options, vote to stay in the European Union or vote to leave the European Union, is a kick in the balls for people like that and takes power away from crony capitalists and puts power towards ordinary people? I mean entrepreneurs as much as the average working guy in the street. It's very simple. The European Union is strongly favoured by big businesses in this country, right? Leaving is strongly favoured by smaller businesses in this country. We all know why that is, because if you've got a really, really constrained, regulated market, if you've got a regulation department, that works pretty well for you. You've got lobbyists, you help write the regulations, you help conform to them. If you're a small business, you can't afford that. You can't do that, you can't play. And the EU is a massive barrier to market entry for innovative, thriving young businesses, and it is a huge benefit to massive industries. And I think there is no surprise that the big banks are some of the biggest donors to the Remain campaign. Goldman Sachs, I think I'm right in saying their biggest individual donor. Leaving aside the Greece issue, which I think is not Goldman Sachs' finest hour, that's because obviously big banks wield massive lobbying power in the EU. So let's give you a classic example of this from like the industry I work in, education technology. There's a huge problem with the publishing lobby. So in education, there's really only a couple of big businesses and they're publishers. Their view on intellectual property regulation is very different to the view of a small up-and-coming tech business that wants to use intellectual property for all over. And one of the most brilliant things about the internet is the democratization of information in that way. And the publishers are trying to say, oh no, when we post content on the internet, you've got to pay to access that. And I'm not talking like journals, I'm talking hyperlinks, right? And the publishing lobby is fighting a battle with a brilliant MEP called Julia Reader, who's fighting against them on behalf of small business to say, this is outrageous. When a website links to an article or something, they do not have to have that under intellectual property law. Google News pulled out of Spain because Spain implemented a version of what the EU wants to implement, where Google News couldn't link to news content, right? Imagine if a friend of mine's trying to start a news aggregator website in the UK. He said if this goes through, he's just going to bin it and go back to management consultancy. I just can't do my business. And this is the problem. And as well as it's very clear, this is the ordinary people, entrepreneurs side of the debate. If Remain have got to stand here, that's the big business, Westminster elite, Europe elite side of the debate. You want more power for those guys? Go vote for them. You want less power for these guys? Vote with us. The other thing I would say is I genuinely think this is also past versus the future. And the future is, as much as they don't like it, taking power away from the elite. And I think one of the most exciting things that's happening is the way the internet and big data is democratizing information, and the information that is currently only in the hands of massive companies will soon be in the hands of smaller businesses and individuals. And the Internet of Things, which is going to put in your hands the kind of information about your life that at the moment only a big company has, is going to enliven us, it's going to enliven smaller businesses in an incredible way. And trust me, no one hates the coming Internet of Things more than the European Union, because it's a pro-small business, pro-individual, anti-big business. The good news for us is the future is pro-small business, it's pro-individuals, it's pro-vote leave. The past is pro-Remain in this kind of dirigist, centralist bureaucracy. And so I think that's what I would say to you. I really think that the way to say no to crony capitalism is to vote to leave the European Union, and that is much safer for an entrepreneurial, free market, internationalist, bottom-up, organic Britain.
Any further questions?
Quick one. When we leave, can we have our blue British passport back, please?
Can I also add, why is it that the tech industry seems to be pro-Remain?
To the gentleman's question, I have to admit I'm too young to have had one, but they look nice in the pictures, so yes, I'd like them back. Why is the tech industry pro-Remain? Great question. Always, whenever you see a business survey, have a look at it and ask a few questions. Is it a poll done by a polling company who are duty bound by the UK Polling Council to be fair, or is it done by the CBI? And it's the CBI have rung up the 30 most pro-EU CEOs they know and asked them to contribute to it. So I think some of the tech polling is self-selecting. The second issue, I think, is that what the biggest tech survey I've seen, they were asked, do you want an EU without reform? This is pre the Cameron deal. Do you want an EU without reform, a reformed EU, or to leave? And only 17%, 1-7, said we want an unreformed EU. Now, given it's the fairness of my audience, I think we have an unreformed EU after David Cameron's deal. So in that sense, only 17% of tech companies back that. In general though, do I think maybe Vote Leave, me, all of us here have done a good enough job of convincing, as the gentleman at the back said, that it's safe to leave? Maybe not. I think probably in the same way that in a lot of the country I speak to ordinary people, a man on the street, and they say, look, I want to go. I'm fed up with the political class. I'm fed up with the EU. I'm worried about my job. I think an awful lot of entrepreneurs, however much better educated they might be or smarter or whatever, say, yeah, I'm up for leaving. I hate the regulation. The EU's a mess. But I'm concerned about the short-term impact on the economy. And I think those of us on the Vote Leave side want to do all we can to get across the message, which I believe is true. In the short term, it is safer to vote for Leave because nothing will change. We are immediately out of the crisis that is likely to happen in the euro in the next 5 to 10 years and in the European Union, and we are immediately out of any more companies like Ghost did last week leaving Britain because it's in the European Union. In the longer term, wow, the opportunities are almost endless. If we leave the European Union, this country in 30 or 40 years' time becomes the world's leading country for science, it becomes the world's leading country for technology, it becomes the most open, internationalist, dynamic country in the world, and entrepreneurs, scientists and tech people will be flooding to this country, and we will be, as we are now, a rich and prosperous country, but we'll have an even brighter future in 30 years' time than we do now, and that's where I believe that if we vote to leave, our best days very clearly lie ahead of us.